Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Jenny White. You got to be excited, Jenny.
Uh-oh. Why?
Well, you got some rain. Hopefully, the smoke is
Oh,
dissipating from your property a
you
little
know
bit.
what? It's so funny that you say that because I was thinking the exact same thing. I was thinking, okay, the rain is going to come. You know what it smells like now? Wet burn stuff.
Oh, God. I was hoping you'd have some relief. I was hoping you'd finally start having
Dude,
a little.
me too. I mean, now the smoke and the dust and everything has gone out of the air for hopefully everybody since, that whole line pretty much covered the state. So I hope most of that's gone for everybody. But dadgummit, I'm telling you, around here it just smells like wet, burnt stuff. I was like, well, this isn't what I kind of expect. You know that spring smell, when you go out and you're like, oh man, new things. It just smells. Yeah, that's not what.
Maybe we need a little more chlorophyll. We need a little more green to come around, a little more chlorophyll for you.
And that is the weird thing, though. I will say this. So, for all of the years that I've lived here that we didn't get burned up in a fire, I've never seen it be quite this green. And I think it's just because, it's black, right? And just bare and black. And then so the green where it sticks out is like green.
Yeah.
It's very weird. And I mean, I like it fine. It's great. But, and I'm glad everything is greening up. But yeah, I'm not sure what we're going to do to get rid of the smell. So, not super excited about that. So, I wanted to mention something this morning. Because I saw this morning and I thought, this is frustrating. Let me throw my screen up here. It always takes you like 12 screens and it's like, hang on a minute while I get this up. Okay, look at this one. 400. So that's not like overall. That's 400 in the house. I mean, does anybody else do what?
They're doing a lot of work up there, Jenny.
Yeah. What kind of work are we doing up there, Michael?
Good old boy work. Good old boys.
Well, I'm just curious as to how 400 bills are going to help any of us retain any liberty. Just wondering how much liberty we're going to get out of 400 bills. And here's the thing that kills me about them. Now the one good one, raise the age of sexual consent from 16 to 18. We'll talk. Our friend Mary from V1SUT is going to be on actually a couple of times this month. She's been doing so much work. So she's going to talk about that and how important that is. The residential setbacks for wind turbines, we did get that when legislation creating a new felony for being in the U.S. illegally. That's, a ban on cell phone use in schools. We can talk to Kendra about that one. Why are we legalizing sports betting? Because that's going to help Oklahoma families. Anybody?
Yeah, little money in there. Little
Bueller.
Money in that sports betting.
Bueller. A handful of bills from a Democrat addressing child care issues in the state, including a tax credit, because we need to give away a little more money. And there's our favorite governor had his press conference the other day, and I think I might.
I thought we've coined King, our favorite King.
I'm sorry, King Stitt. That is correct. King Stitt gave a press conference the other day, and I think we'll talk about that. I don't want to waste Kendra's time on that, but at the end, I think we should go over the press conference because I think it would be instructive for people watching if we just kind of did that. So I think we should. But I don't know about you. I want to talk to our friend Kendra Wesson.
Of course. The Kendra Wesson.
I'm sorry,
The one and only.
Kendra Wesson. So I'm going to pull her in so we can talk to her. Good morning,
Good morning.
Kendra Wesson. How are you this morning?
I'm good. Rough night with some hail and different things, but nothing's
Gloria
damaged.
says,
so
bring her on. Shut up and bring her on.
Thanks, Gloria.
Did you have hail?
Which Gloria Bannister?
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
You did?
We had the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah. We had
I don't know what size they were. I thought about checking, but I was just too warm and cozy.
And Julia had to say good morning to you too.
Julia,
notice she did.
Yes.
Julie doesn't say good morning to the rest of it. She just says good morning to you. That's all she cares about today. I'm just teasing, Jules. So we've had, there she says it. Okay. Good morning, Jenny and Michael.
Oh, and you get an emoji.
And
Jenny,
an emoji. Oh, with love. Oh, that's a good one. Well, I'm so glad about that. And Amber says good morning and good morning. We're getting ready to lose.
Good morning.
I know we're getting ready to lose Amber. I'm frustrated about
I can't
that.
Talk about it. Don't talk. Please, I know. Don't talk about it.
But you know what I'm thinking though? If we let all the air out of the tires in her RV, then she can't go anywhere.
I agree. We ride at dawn, Jenny. We ride at dawn.
Ride at dawn. Yeehaw. Okay, so you are one of the most exciting individuals I have met and know recently. You have had so many exciting things happen to you. So one of the things that happened that was exciting was you were interviewed by the New York Times.
Yes. I wouldn't use the word exciting, but yes, had an interview with the New York Times. And it's funny because, well, let's just jump right into the meat and potatoes. But it's funny to me because all of the media and the reports coming out are that we were removed because we were, quote, 3 board members removed from the State Department of Education board because we were, quote, going after kids. And I, maybe I'm slow, but I thought the press release said NAEP scores and political drama. But so why is the narrative that, we're going after kids? It's just interesting the way things change over time.
Well, we all know you and we know that you hate children. So there is that. Well, I think partly it came from the fact that King Stitt has said numerous times, well, I'm here to protect children. I just felt like they were going after children. I mean, he said that numerous times. So I think that's where it comes from.
The challenge for him is to show that by getting English-speaking teachers in the classrooms, by getting non-English speaking kids on a fast track, helping their families learn English. There's lots of ways that he can show his intentions other than using words, right? So let's see some action.
Well, but see, I thought, this is just me, but I thought if you talk about stuff but you don't do anything about it, that was pretty much politics. I mean, am I wrong?
Jenny, that's good enough.
I thought that was kind of the definition. So I just figured, if you go out and you berate people in public and say things to say them, and then while you're not doing anything about it behind the scenes, I kind of think that that's politics, isn't it?
Well, and that's what Oklahomans are about to change as we see this grassroots movement growing. Oklahoma is going to be the turnaround on the way politics are supposed to be, a government of the people, for the people, by the people. So people are moving into place. And of course, the Lord has his hand on it. So that is going to change in Oklahoma. We're going to claim that today.
I completely agree with you. And I know Michael will too. And here's just, I'm going to not veer off. I mean, we're talking about the same thing, but I just want to say this before we go into something else. Everybody agrees with you too. Amen. Bring on the change.
Because I learned from all those people agreeing right there. They're the people who, yeah, my heroes.
So, I lost my train of thought. I mean,
No, I made Jenny's
it jumped right off the track, and everybody even saw it. They were like, wow, I actually saw that happen. And so now, since I've forgotten what I was going to say, I know what I was going to say.
Yay.
So last night we elected a new senator, which I think is going to be wonderful. Brian Logan, right?
Yes.
Okay, that didn't sound right when I said it. It was very odd. So he was elected, and he did quite well. I mean, in his race against a how would you put it? A more business friendly Republican. So I think that's good. But then what happened in the school board race in Edmond, Michael?
Jim Putnam lost by 490 votes, 460 something like that.
What happened in the Deer Creek school board election?
Yeah, I quit looking when Jim lost.
So Lisa Antonelli lost to the coach who was running for the school board position. So here's the problem that I feel like I'm with you. I feel like we're going the right direction in getting people replaced at the state level, which is what we have to do. But our school boards, I feel like we're just kind of treading water here and going under, because it did not. And I'm with Gloria. I can't believe Jim lost. I mean, to me, that's just ridiculous. So when you look at that kind of overall picture and where you've been in this past year, I mean, what are your thoughts?
So I have a lot of thoughts on this. So many that I'm trying to file them away and organize them real quick. So school boards. We cannot participate in school boards only at election time. This is something more than any other seat. That is a year-round endeavor, which includes going to school board meetings, meeting with your school board members, holding them accountable. The boards that are held the least accountable, I feel like, in the state of Oklahoma are our school boards. And that would be something. And then running for school board has to be, you almost have to start at the previous election. And the frustration comes in as seats are lost because it's one seat per year in most districts. It's not every district. So in Norman, we just lost our last conservative seat, and the Norman school board is completely progressive now. We'll see what happens with our school district, but the school board, you really need brigades and teams of people to work on that all year long. And you have to remember that a superintendent in a small town often controls legislators who are voted in, city council, mayors. Those superintendents have a lot of power. But Jenny, this is something you've talked about for years and years. The structure is off. Superintendents are hired by the board. The board is the authority. The problem we have in Oklahoma is our board members don't realize they're the authority. So empowering those board members, holding them accountable, that's the job of the people. And that job doesn't stop at a win or a loss. The job continues. It's participatory government, and we need, I dare to say, we need more people participating. And those of us who are in the realm need to make that easier for them and help them understand how things work, however that looks like.
Well, we need to make sure they're trained properly. And I know you think that. So I want to put this up there a second. I love this picture. I picked this picture because I love this picture. And the reason why I picked the picture is because I felt like it personified you as a person. So, I mean, you and I haven't known each other 15 years, but I've known you long enough to know
We've got 5.
Oh my, really?
Yes.
Time goes by so fast. But you're one of those people that I feel like I've known for forever. So it's like, I guess I don't even stop to think about it. But here's the thing. You and I got into a discussion one time I think it was well over a year ago, about sitting on boards and how frustrating it was to sit on a board and see the person next to you not prepared for the board meeting. Remember that discussion we had?
Mm-hmm.
And if we had even 20 Kendra Wessons out there just on boards places, our state would look completely different, because you are the most amazing person. I mean, I've met so many amazing people being involved over the years, and you are like way up there. I mean, way up there. Your background is so phenomenal. And you sent me a podcast you did with a lady, and I was listening.
Oh,
she
yes.
asked a little bit about you, and you went through your background again. And just go over it briefly for people who don't know you.
Okay, where do you want me to start?
Just you're growing up, just like you did on
growing
that podcast. Just you're growing up. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm Native American. I was born to parents that were under 18, and I grew up, bounced around, lived in some Indian housing, lived with different grandparents, aunts sometimes. There's a funny story about my aunt that she told me when I was adult, she was like, well, once your mom took you to daycare and didn't come pick you up, and so I had you for 6 weeks. And I'm like, I had no idea any of this stuff even happened, but I was bounced around a lot. But I was blessed and able to have some stability, because everyone in my family pitched in. Very loved, very chaotic childhood. And it sounds terrible to some people, but the Lord gives us our trials, and that's what that's what my childhood was. But that sounds but anyway, so I ended up at Moore High School, the longest I'd ever been in a school, and it was 2.5 years. Graduated. When I graduated high school, I had an 8-month-old and was pregnant with my second child. When I graduated high school, I was very blessed with a work program that Moore had. I worked half a day and went to school half a day. So I went to school in the morning, worked in the evening, and that money went to pay daycare so I could go to school, because, there was a big conversation in my family that I was going to drop out, and I ruined my life. I had been in the gifted program in school, and so they were real disappointed, because I was the one that was supposed to kind of pull us out of the bondage of poverty. And so I just had to prove them wrong. So I went ahead and graduated and went to work, and had 4 little kids when I started college. I had done accounting my whole life, but you just you stop if you don't have a degree to go with it. So I ended up with 3 degrees after that. So it cracks me up when my early 20s kids are like, I can't work and go to college. I'm like, listen, I had 4 kids, a marriage, worked, went full time for National Oil of Varco, which is a huge oil company, and went to college and graduated cum laude. So, or cum laude, however you say it. And it's possible. And I just had a drive, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know where it came from. I just had it. And when I got into politics in 2020, there was a recall in Norman. We had in the center of Oklahoma, the city of Norman was going to have a police defunding, and they were advertising it that way. Very progressive council. And I'd never been politically active, and something in me just snapped that day. And I just couldn't. I woke up one day and I was like, this is not my America. This is not the America I grew up in. We were about 6 months into the COVID lockdowns. Our mayor was letting people go to the dog salon, but they couldn't go to the beauty parlor, and it was just ridiculousness. And so it started this recall. A group was formed. I feel like I'm getting way into the weeds of this, but basically just became politically active and just hungry for how it worked. Why was my city council able to do this much to me? And at that time, I thought Governor Stitt was the authority. And so it's funny, because I would see him at events and I would say, what are you going to do about our mayor? And I would give him a hard time. And he was always gracious about that, even though he knew, and I now know that's not how it worked. We need to hold our mayor accountable at the local level. Local power superseded, he couldn't do anything about a local mayor unless they were outside of the law. So it was a huge learning curve. I was serving on the board of a small charter school here in Norman, and they had asked me to be on that board, even though I didn't have any children in that district, because they wanted some financial expertise. So I began to learn about the finances, the way they worked, needs and estimate of needs that go to the county, all the things. And then I ran for office, and I ran the same times that Ryan Walters ran, and we would often see each other at speeches. And he was also very empowering and gracious. I was a terrible, terrible speaker. I was terrified to speak in public. That was the worst part probably about campaigning for me, which is funny because now I actually enjoy it. I cannot believe I'm the same person. And so I did not win that election. And I just decided this is it for me. Obviously, the Lord is telling me politics is not my forte. And I just thought, okay, I'll just, I've got kids. I've got plenty of things to do. And then got the call about being on the State Board of Education. And the first question was, do I have to leave this current board I'm on? And they said, I think so. And so I was sad about that, prayed about it again, and then decided to go ahead and take that. I was very excited. And I didn't realize at the time, I think that it's very rare that someone like me with my background ends up on those boards. And there were a lot of times on that board that I realized that I was maybe the only one at that table that had ever gone hungry or had electricity through an extension cord to the house next door, or, things like that. And it gave me a unique perspective on kids who are marginalized, low income, poverty stricken. And to me, it is an injustice that we don't have more people of everyday walks of life on those boards helping decide things. And so I really cherished it and I valued it.
So I just finished JD Vance's book, Hillbilly Elegy.
That's my story. Yes.
It is your story.
It is my story.
Absolutely 100%. And I thought about you while I was reading it or listening to it. I was like, I know somebody else like that.
Last summer, I was out of things to watch, and I came across that movie, and I didn't even realize it was his story. Yeah. And they kept saying Vance, and I was like, why does that name sound so familiar? And so I finally looked it up, and then I continued watching it, and I was like, wow, my mom to a T. The pills, the addictions, the responsibility falling on the kids' shoulders for the entire family. A great mama. I had a grandma and a mima that helped keep that family together, because the mom was out of sorts, all of it, Jenny. And I'm so pro JD Vance.
And what you just said, I think is what is the very, very most important thing. So who's appointed to the board in your, after you were fired, after you were just summarily canned for no reason for I'm sorry, you were causing political drama. I forgot about that. Because I've known you to do that. And
we better get Kendra a political animal shirt.
Oh, we do need to get, if anybody needs a shirt, hey, Whitney, if you're on this morning, let's make that happen. The people who were put on that board and the people who are put on other boards that I have known do not have your background. They're all people who are political cronies in one way or another, even if when I say political cronies, I mean socioeconomic equal. So why do we have people, and JD said this at the end of the book, because you can't watch the movie, you have to read the book. That's the bottom line. If you really want to get something out of it, you got to read the book. At the end of the book, he says, why is it that there are people sitting at desks making legislation about homelessness and the poor when they've never been homeless or hungry?
And it made to touch on, Jenny, because that is the thing. You can never.
Hey, you're getting one. You're getting one.
Woohoo! You can never, we have to accept the fact that experiencing something is different than trying to understand something. We have to get, everyone has a different lens. Everyone sees things a different way, but you have to understand that at some point, for instance, the kids, they were asking me what I used to get in my stocking. They were all under 12, and they were, what did you get in your stocking? And I said, we always got an apple, an orange, a hard candy, and usually socks and underwear. They started cracking up. They thought I was joking. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, why are you guys laughing? And then I realized that's funny to them because they can't conceive of a stocking like that, because I made sure their stockings were full of all the goodness, chocolate, all of it. And, is that their fault that they can't understand that? No, they can't. But we have to understand that with adults too, that people, and so I would even say on the boards, the people that are put on the boards sometimes aren't even political. They're business associates or someone who, and sometimes you see them and they don't value that seat. And I think that's under my skin right now, because how can you serve in that seat and not value that seat and not value that position? It's just another board to be on.
And so I'm going to go back to the picture. The reason why I picked that picture is because that's who you were. You wanted to do that job. And when you do something, you throw yourself into it 499%. It's not like, well, I need to go do this today. There are a lot of things that make me mad about government, but that was personal to me and it pissed me off so bad. I'm still mad. I'm still angry, because it's not just that I know you and I know who you are and I know what you are doing. It's not even that. Why can't we have grassroots people, everyday normal human beings on these boards? Why do they always have to be full of business associates and little economic cronies or little cronies of this? Oh, I know that person. I know this person. It makes me infuriated. And if you don't think that this is why we don't have government for the people, of the people, by the people, it's because we don't have government of the people, for the people. There aren't any of these people. And that's why these local elections, and I want to talk too, after I let Michael talk, since I just cut him off, I want to talk too about how important the gubernatorial election coming up is going to be, for what reasons that you learned. I'm sorry, Michael, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I just want to say something, a couple things I know about Kendra. Well, and this goes to your point on the boards, Jenny. Why do they not want regular people? Because regular people are so qualified. Look at the life, just like as an example with Kendra, look at the life experience Kendra's had. And she didn't even, in the bio that she just gave us, it was even twice as long with more detail on the other podcast. And it was just amazing, Kendra, just all the stuff that you went through and how you put yourself through school. Later on, you came back to get your accounting and things like that. But you look at someone like Kendra, and I want you to kind of address this, Kendra. Another thing that makes Kendra so exceptional and uniquely qualified, especially for that seat, was her experience with not only accounting, but public accounting, which is completely different, than the accounting that we're used to.
That's a great point. I think that there's this weird thing in education besides the secrecy, which Suzette and I talked on a little bit, which that secrecy reminds me of the addictive family I came from. We keep our secrets in house. We don't talk about things outside. But so there's this thing that these board members need to be teachers. They need to be have been administrators or things like that. And I think that is incorrect. The accounting background of it is what helped me, because really what boards are doing, other than policy, which you learn to navigate, is a big piece of it is the financial piece. And you have to understand, and government accounting, Michael, government accounting is so off the wall from public accounting or private accounting. You're spending to a budget instead of really cutting costs. So it's exciting to see the Trump administration decide to cut costs. But it was backwards to me. I spent 7 months working for the Chickasaw Nation. I loved that that company, CNI, but the accounting just never, I just could not ever get in line with the type of accounting that government accounting is. But on the schools, you need someone who can make those business type decisions. People who know that when there's an encumbrance report with a credit card, they want to see the detail of the credit card. I think the little school that I was on the board of here in Norman, I think the headmaster just about lost his mind when I was like, okay, you've got credit cards on here, Lowe's. I want to see the expense detail of those credit cards, not just a line item of I spent $1,000 at Lowe's. What are you buying? And I go to the board and I'm like, he could be buying anything. I don't think he would, but he could. And it's our responsibility fiscally. And that's where I come back to holding school boards accountable, holding those individuals accountable for doing that job. If they're looking at encumbrance reports and looking at PO requests and seeing $49,999 every single month, which is an obvious
red flag.
It's an avoidance of RFP processes, request for purchase processes. There's things that those people need to know. And if you're in the accounting world and the business world, you learn to you see those things quickly before anyone else would that doesn't understand it. So the training piece is very, very important. And you go back to training these school board members, but they have to have a willingness to learn it. You can sit in trainings all day long and zone out, type on your phone, watch YouTube under the cover. But you've got to be willing to learn that stuff and want to learn that stuff and want to make a difference. And that should be the criteria for a board member.
But see, here's what Sherry says, and this is 170,000% correct.
Oh, yeah.
That's 170,000% correct. I just made that term up because there isn't more correctness out there.
Well, that's how we're going to end up. We're in Groundhog Day movie. We're doing the same exact things year after year. And then we're going, why isn't it different? Why isn't there a change? And I think that you also have to understand as the public listening to us, the change doesn't have to be you run a recall election or a recall petition like I did. That doesn't have to be the change. The change is just showing up. One board meeting a month. K County, I spoke in K County last Thursday. And those folks in K County, I was so impressed with their Republican club. They go to meetings, they come back and report at the club, and they split it out. One person goes to school board, one person goes to council, one person goes to county commissioners, and they come back and report. So everyone gets that knowledge. The meeting was well attended, well run, and they've really got a great structure and working together. And I could tell there were a lot of strong patriots in that group, a lot of strong personalities, and they had found this way to channel all that into something that benefited all of them. It was incredible. And I know here's something else. And I think you and I talked about this, Jenny. When I saw how well they were put together, I started to get scared as a speaker because I thought, what am I going to possibly say to these people that's going to, number one, they're going to know if I'm saying anything that isn't true because they're on top of their game. Number two, what am I possibly going to teach a group like this who is so well versed? And then I thought about that. And I thought, okay, so legislators, if you've got a legislator coming to speak to your group, I think them feeling that way would be excellent. I think they need to consider these people are going to know if I'm lying to them. These people have a good pulse on what bills I've been a part of, and they're going to hold me accountable to those. And if legislators went to groups like that all over the state and felt more held accountable, do you think, political experts here, do you think that they would do a better job and hold themselves more accountable as well?
Not most.
Stop, Jenny. Give them something.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, honestly,
Jenny, they have to protect their place. They don't want to look like a complete moron. I think they would try to work a little bit harder.
Anyways,
my problem is I'm jaded because I've seen so many of them come and go, and I've heard them come to the meeting, and then they do their little tap dance, and the people who come to the meeting are not on top of things, and they go, oh yeah, James Langford just said that he was blah blah blah, blah. Oh yay, and they don't pay any attention to the fact that he just said this to you, but he's going on CNN saying something else, or he's doing something because they won't they won't and James Langford isn't going to go to that K County meeting because they knows they would wipe the floor with them. So they stay away from those and go to the meetings that they know the people don't have, that much moxie with, and he can get away tap dancing.
Well, there's our goal. You just set the bar. So everyone, we want you all to be so smart and well-versed that the politicians stop coming to your meetings. What a crown. What an achievement. They had no meetings to go to.
That's pretty good. No, I mean, and that's true. And it's not that I don't agree with you. I mean, because these guys, Wagner County's great too. I mean, they have the same exact system. I mean, more and more of these Republican groups in these outside areas are doing that kind of thing. And I think Oklahoma County may start doing that too. We're going to have Caleb Blount, who's the chairman of Oklahoma County, come on next week. And I think, that woman she's up there with you in my category. I mean, you guys are so smart. And Sherry says we're getting there, and it's true. I do believe that we are. But I go back to this, and I know people are sick of me doing it, so plug your ears if you don't want to hear it again. But I go back to 1775 and the end of the Constitutional Convention when Franklin goes out on the street and the woman says, what have you given us? And he says, a republic if you can keep it. And people don't understand what he meant by if you can keep it. What he didn't mean was, well, we fought a Revolutionary War. 33% of us, the rest of us were just hanging out like we didn't have anything better to do. But 33% of us were fighting that Revolutionary War. We were really going at it. And now we can just sit back on autopilot and just let everything. And that's what people think. They don't want to go to their school board meetings. They don't want to go to their city council meetings. They don't want to contact their legislators. They don't even know who they are.
Well, and I don't know that we can blanket say they all don't want to, because I know when I was
and I was just being dramatic.
Yeah, I know,
because I'm creating political drama here.
But that wraps back around. Well, I'll be a part of that, please.
I thought you would at least laugh at that.
Okay, I'll laugh.
Okay.
But let's wrap that back around. I think that we have to figure out how to get a mom like me with 4 little kids at home back in the day to get a babysitter and to go out and participate. What can we do to encourage this family? Something that is my favorite thing right now. Watching President Trump walk across the White House lawn with Elon Musk's little boy, watching JD Vance's kids, watching the son hit the mom in the head during I have watched that clip. I love it because that was my life for so long. And while we maintain a professionalism in office, there's a speech, and I've been trying to find it, a speech by Reagan. And he says, it's in the late 80s. And he says, I fear that our patriotism is dropping. Our patriotism, what is it going to be in 20 years? I already see it now. And he encourages political talk around the dinner table. He encourages families to have those conversations and not to avoid politics with their children. And I think we did that. And I know I'm a Gen Xer, and I think that with my older kids, I did that because I didn't want to be pushy and I didn't want to push things on them. And I had this whole attitude, as free birds, that they were going to decide what they wanted to do with their life. And I didn't want to influence that. And I think that was a terrible, terrible misunderstanding of myself to do that, because they, spare the rod, spoil the child. We all know what that means. And I wish I would have talked with them more about things and helped them be more well-versed, because as Reagan was saying, the more educated your children are about patriotism and why it's here, and that dream of the ones who came to America with literally a Bible and a prayer and a hope for something better in their 20s, and some younger than 20. And they just came here with that dream. And that spirit is what embodies America. That's why these conversations about America being racist or America being bad or go all over me, because America is what the people make it to be. And they came here, they fought. We live in a world like no other here in this country. And I don't want our kids to lose sight of the beauty of the tapestry that formed together to make us who we are. And of course, there's things that aren't good. We're not going to be Pollyanna and say everything's great, but their participation is what keeps that goodness. And they need to understand, the responsibility of that, the role they play in that, and the fact that it can be small things they do to keep that going. I think we get overwhelmed because we think we need to do so much, or be a star, or be in a board seat, or be in a legislative seat. You don't. You just need to participate and do your piece. And if we all did our little 1%, imagine how much it would change. And so that's the message with all that's happened to me that I want the grassroots to understand is your governor matters. And I know we wanted to talk about that. Think about all
this. Can you hold that 1 second, because I want to go back to, there are 3 comments here that are phenomenal.
Okay.
Roberta says, people have confused asking questions with being controversial. That's probably
Yep.
Roberta, you get like the prize for the best comment so far this morning.
And she lives this. She's not, this isn't lip service with Roberta. Yeah. I've seen her ask people tough questions, be right in front of them, but she did it with grace. And I don't know how she does that, because I'm way more blunt than her, but she's able to do that. Yeah.
Well, and here's my follow-up to that. Let's just say you ask the tough question. You don't have to go, God, you me. I mean, there's not a reason. Okay, so I'm just curious, why did you vote that way on this bill? Because here's the reason, blah, 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 blah. I mean, all you have to do is just be conversational about it. But if you can't ask them those questions, they will continue to pull the wool over your eyes.
It's also unfair to them. Think about it from the other side of the fence. I'm a legislator. I'm up there. They're putting laws and votes in on all industries, all walks of life, without having knowledge of all those things. It's our responsibility to help them understand the way it works in the real world. There was a law passed last year that really affected laser techs who had gone to private vocational schools to be able to do skin hair removal things.
Okay, I was like, what? A what?
Yeah, I don't know if they're called laser tech. Okay. What, I made it up. But the people who do laser hair removal and things were able to go to Votech before last year's law and come out and do those treatments. Well, it changed last year, and you had to be a nurse to do that now. So all those people that had gone to school for that were now left with a worthless certificate that they can't do anything with. And it killed me when I found that out. And I believe that was due to the legislature not understanding how it would affect. And had those people that had those certificates been well-versed and knowledgeable, they could have gone up there and talked to all their legislators, hey, you guys are about to put us out of a job. I'm sure that's not what you mean to do here, but that's what's going to happen. And there's just example after example like that, of that happening. So we need to help them make good decisions and not have them sitting up there thinking, well, no one's saying anything, so it must be okay. No one's giving me any feedback, so what I'm doing must be fine. It's our job to provide that feedback to help them too.
And I completely agree with you, but I'm going to be mean again and say, if you don't understand, when you decide you want to run for office, you don't understand what government does, then, and let me back up. If you're going to run as a Republican and you don't understand the concept of small government, don't run. Don't run. Because I shouldn't have to waste my time explaining to you that you don't tell a person how to do their job. That's not your job to do that. Because in the real world, the way things should work, and if Republicans were true Republicans, they would say, you know what, if you want to go to a laser removal hair place and they do a terrible job, then that's on you. You know, you go to their board or whatever and you get them kicked out. But that's not my job to, make them. It's what they do, like with people who cut hair. Well, you have to have a certificate to be able to do that. No, the government just wants your money. You don't need to do that, because the private people who go to get their hair cut, if you suck, they're not coming back to you. That's how the whole system works. So it's these legislators who feel like they want to create these certificates so that they can make money off of it and put money in the coffers that I just can't stand. And if you're going to run as a Republican and you don't understand to leave your hands off what people do, because the economy, the people who are using those services will curtail those people themselves, leave them alone. Sorry,
Well,
I had to be mean.
No, and I agree. And so in the meantime, until we get those kind of legislators in, we're going to help hold them accountable, and we're going to do those things and help guide them back to where we're supposed to be in that. Right.
Fair enough.
We're doing that, Jenny. Like there have been wins, Logan, Shaw, there have been wins, Kendall Sacchieri, that you know how hard it is to get an incumbent out.
Yeah.
I mean, we have had, and I don't want us to lose sight of those gains that we have, and we're going to keep going, and we're going to keep doing that because the people are awake and we are paying attention.
I agree. And what you were saying, the government has taken care of them since cradle, so they don't know they can work and get their way out. It's their right and their responsibility to get their way out, but we don't teach people that either. So while we're teaching legislators things, we've got to find a way to teach people too.
Yeah.
And that's another thing JD said, in his book. If we don't talk to our kids, the world will.
And my aunt calls it grit, that grit of, and I notice it with my younger kids too. They have this idea that they should only have to work 40 hours a week and be able to pay every single bill. Well, let me tell you, with 2 little kids, I hustled. I worked 8 to 5. I waited tables on the weekends, and we all went and threw the paper Saturday and Sunday morning because I liked food and I liked to eat and feed my children. And that's what we did in that grit of being able to do that and understanding that for a short period in your life, you're going to have to work your rear end off, whatever that looks like. And that is an investment into a future where you don't have to do that. The thought that you should graduate high school and be a CEO, maybe we sold that to our kids with the dream of college. Listen, when you go to college, you're going to have this bright future. Well, I'm sorry, guys, if you go to college and get a multidisciplinary studies degree or a gender studies degree, not sure what you're going to do with that. And so we have to have that grit and that work, having kids work in high school. I'm a big fan of that. Childhood. You're not a child in high school. You're now a young adult, and you just start training your kids that way so that when adulthood hits them, they're not so freaked out that they think they can change their gender and escape it. We all have responsibilities here for all of these things that are happening. Sorry.
Yeah, but we don't. No. You're 100% correct. We just don't. We don't do that. I mean, look at, and we'll talk about schools in a second, but I wanted to make 2 other comments. So I got fired for asking questions. Julia says people are accused and bullied for asking those questions, but do not fear, keep asking.
Every time I've asked and it's been horribly, I mean, I've never been fired in my life. Being removed from that board, 1, I loved it more than anything. 2, it was humiliating. The press release was humiliating to me, and maybe other people, I hope, didn't see it that way. It felt very damaging to me. But I will wear that press release as a badge of honor every day of the week.
Well, mention that. Wait, I got to put this one up.
Charity. Charity has helped me with so many of my journeys and advisement.
You're a badass patriot. Okay. So I want to go back to the press release because I think people don't understand. So when I was fired from the state election board, just as an alternate, there is my dad, after that happened and it all hit the newspapers and everything, my dad was like, what happened? Did you do something? And I'm like, Dad, come on. There is something about that going out, and then all of a sudden you have no control over what people think about you, because if they don't know who you are, they're not going to go, oh, that's just Jenny. She must have been asking something, or that's just Kendra. There's no way. But most people don't know us, so they don't know that kind of a thing. I mean, I know how I felt when it happened to me. How did you feel when it happened to you?
Well, it was a weird series of events because, and I do appreciate that the Monday that Governor Stitt called me personally. I appreciate that. And I was told, okay, I'm going to shake your board up. I told him that we had a real problem with, and I think it's interesting to me because I didn't, hindsight's 2020, but as I was having these conversations, I wasn't quite putting things together yet. And so it was, I guess, me saying it to him just came out of the blue, but I wanted him to know, but it didn't have anything to, I'm not making sense. So I said, Governor, there is one thing I want to tell you before you take me off that board. We have a problem with non-English speaking students in our schools. Oklahoma City just presented, and they have 71 languages being spoken. And I just brought that up. He didn't bring that up to me. So maybe somehow I knew, what the real reason was, or my spirit knew. And he said, yes. And I said, I just want to really tell you that we have to do something. We need to figure out how to help these kids. And he said, well, Kendra, we are doing something, but what we're not going to do is do it publicly. And that didn't hit me until later that he was upset about something being done publicly. And so we got off the phone, he said, I have to go. And I said, sure. And then I texted the number he called from, and I said, Governor, when is this going to release? So I could prepare myself. I was trying to figure out if I should let Ryan know. I didn't know there was anyone else being let go. So all these things were going through my mind. And they said, this was Monday. So they said, it'll release Wednesday, and I'll get in touch with you about this other board. And so I'm at the Capitol Tuesday at a MAPS prayer meeting, and people start coming up to me and they're like, hey, what did you do to Governor Stitt? I don't know why they assumed I did something, but what'd you do to Governor Stitt? Or, oh man, we're so sorry. He made a huge mistake, or whatever. And the more people that came up, and, they're hugging me, and I can usually keep control of my emotions unless someone is hugging me, so it got overwhelming, and I started to kind of tear up and become upset. And here I am at the Capitol surrounded by legislators. And so I'm trying to keep it together. And a legislator sees me and he says, come in my office. What's going on? And I said, well, have you seen this press release? So he pulls it up on his phone and he's like, oh my gosh. And so he goes in his office, he shuts the door, and I'm just standing there and I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on. And then he opens the door and he says, the governor's press secretary is going to come in, and she's a good lady, and you can talk to her and you can just tell her how you feel. And I was like, all right, bring her in. So I started to tell her how I felt, and I told her that I felt that press release was damaging to me, publicly, privately, professionally, politically, all the P's. And, I have clients who know Governor Stitt, and I'm thinking, what are they thinking? This is my job, my profession. I like that I'm self-employed because it leaves me untouchable somewhat in the political realm. But here, all of a sudden, I realize maybe I'm not so untouchable. If they can anyhow. So I let her know, and she said, I know we're not real good at collateral damage. And she was like, well, what do you want me to do? Put out a press release thanking you with your name? And I was like, I don't think you're listening to me at all. I don't want something with my name in it. And at that time, I realized it was 3 board members. I can't believe this. Like, I don't think there's no putting that back in the bag. It's out there. And so she said, well, I've got other fires I got to take care of. And I was like, I understand. And I'm just upset. And then I get a call, or I get a text, because either before or after I met with her, I'd marched myself down to his office and left a note for him I tried to find him and then left a note for him, which was all I could do. And so the chief of staff texts me and says, hey, are you still at the Capitol? And I was like, no. And by this time it's Wednesday. And I was like, I was at the Capitol yesterday. And he said, oh, okay, well, I got a note to call you. And I was like, yes, I left that yesterday. He's like, okay, can you talk? I said, yeah, go ahead and call. And so he starts the conversation. He says, I said, how are you liking being chief of staff? And he says, oh my gosh, long hours, less pay. But I was sitting with my wife at the dinner table last night, and, I just love it, Kendra. I just love it. And I sat there for a minute and I said, well, that is exactly how I feel about that seat you guys just removed me from. And I said, the pay was terrible. And we kind of chuckled because the pay was 0. Right. And he goes, all right, Kendra, well, Governor wanted me to give you a call. There's been a line drawn in the sand, and my mind can't even comprehend what he's saying, because I'm like, what is happening right now? there's been a line drawn in the sand, and I just need to know, are you Team Stitt or are you Team Walters? And all I could say was, what? We just need to know, you're looking at other boards here, and we just can't go any further until you let us know. And I couldn't answer because really I'm neither. And so I said, well, and he goes, you know what? Just pray about it. Talk to Shay. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Just have that on your prayer list. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm really trying to hold my mouth closed because I don't know what I'm going to say, because it was pretty upsetting to me. And I didn't want to say the wrong thing. So I just thought, I'll say nothing. Rule of thumb, just say nothing. And he goes, and there's one more thing, and it's kind of awkward. And I said, well, we're way past awkward. And he said, we're going to need you to publicly. We were. It was I was so uncomfortable. And he said, we're going to need you to publicly disavow Ryan in this Trump advisory Doge thing. And I was like, yeah, no. In my head, I'm like, yeah, no, that, okay, we're done. And so I just said, okay. I'm just going to pray about this. And then the next day, about 10 o'clock, he texted, I'm going to need a decision. Governor's going to be coming in and asking me questions. And I said, and it sounds silly now, but I said, I'm just a little fish. This is all via text. So I do have this on text, but I said, I'm just a little fish, and this is a big, scary ocean. Being on a board or having a board seat is not priority for me. And basically you're asking me to disavow another public official, and I'm not interested, and also disavow Trump at the same time. And he said, you know what, it's okay if you want to take Ryan's side, the governor won't be upset. And I just texted back and said, I'm Team Oklahoma. And I put Oklahoma in all caps and about 40 exclamation points, and just left it at that. And I was just like, I'm just done with this whole thing. This is so not where I wanted to go with this. I'm interested in making a difference. And yes, Julia, and change. And I serve because I want to be where I can make changes, not because I want somebody to know my name or because I'm special. And so the whole thing was really hurtful. And someone else from his office reached out and kind of tried to smooth that over. And they were like, we were trying to get you a seat, blah, blah, blah. And I just said, you know what? And gosh, I think I'll just say this publicly. I said, I actually wouldn't serve on a board for that governor if my life depended on it. So no, I'm not interested in any more boards. Thank you for calling, yada, yada, goodbye. But, and I'm not, because I see now how it's happening. And I don't know about you guys, but I felt like I could just see a chessboard and me being a piece on that chessboard. And I felt like just part of some big game. And it was so painful to be viewed like that and treated like that. And I just decided, well, I'm just going to let people know how this works. And maybe this will light a fire under them to change out the governor to someone who believes in the people and understands the role the people have, and not their buddies and their friends and whoever kisses the ring. And I think it'd be amazing to have a whole administration of people who won't kiss the ring and just let them battle it out. Let's just do it. Old school. We'll add duels in there. We'll just go outside on the front lawn with guns and figure it out. But that's what I would like to see. It shouldn't be all peace. Obviously the Better Together or Disagree Better initiative failed. And we're not doing that anymore. So we're on to something else in this administration. And I would just like to see people on those boards who understand how things work. Pardon Parole Board, Health Services Board, Medical Board, School Board, all of those boards need to be strong people who understand their roles and understand that their role is to make it better for the little people who don't have a voice. And that's what our government, to me, always meant was even the little guy, the peasant, if you will, had the voice. And right now, I'm not so sure the peasants have a voice. And that's disappointing because, like you guys say, you tease about the monarchy, but it does feel like a monarchy. And it's been
I'm not teasing.
It's been created
not
through bureaucracy. Yeah.
We've almost returned into like a feudal state.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's time for a revolution. It's time for the peasants to realize the power they have and the strength in numbers and voices.
Shall we all say what Thomas Jefferson said again? Because it's one of my very favorite statements. Maybe
Tree
it's
of
time
Liberty,
for
is that
us
what
to
we're talking about?
water the tree of liberty with the blood of tyrants or those who think they are kings. And I'm going to point out something that about your story so that we know that this wasn't you. This is King Stitt. So apparently, I didn't even realize this until somebody told me that the county is being made to now, and I may be wrong about this. So I heard this secondhand, but I heard that the county is being made to pave Luther Road out to a residence where Governor Stitt has a residence that was burned down during the fires. And so when his house burned down, he canned the Department of Forestry head. Just summarily went off with your head.
What I noticed was people spoke out against that, and I'm very proud of those people that took a stand.
I am
and
too.
Said, okay, this is not okay. And you know, I went to school in Luther's half of sixth grade, seventh grade, and eighth grade. Did you know that?
Yes, I did. Actually, we've talked about that before, but yes.
But anyways, I'm starting to see what just one voice can do. There was a lady that came to me. We were doing the prayer meeting before the State Board of Education meeting, and I get to be a part of that now because I'm not studying. So I think I had a better time at that prayer meeting than sitting in that seat. But anyhow, she said, "I want you to know, I just went up to Senator XYZ and told him exactly what I thought because I thought about you and you said the truth and you spoke the truth and I needed to speak the truth." And I thought, part of me was so proud of her. And the other part of me was like, whoa, unleash the hounds, unleash this power that people have. Sometimes it's just as simple as telling a senator exactly what you think politely as you can.
But sometimes it's okay not even to be polite. These people hold our lives, and people don't understand that. How do they not hold our lives in the palm of their hand? They can screw with our insurance rate. They can screw with our taxes. They can make it harder for us to get work. They can make it harder for us to pay bills. These people are important, and yet we seem to think that we should go to them with our little hands under our chins and say, "Mother, may I have you not screw with my life?" No,
I struggle with
that.
I struggle with that because, Southerners, you catch more flies with honey. And sometimes I think when you go at someone, especially someone whose ego matches, they have an ego that unleashed the Kraken. They have an ego. And so you're trying to figure out how to best sway them and make your opinion heard rather than just shutting the door. When I do the grassroots training about how to talk to legislators, I always tell people, make sure that legislative assistant is treated with utmost respect and kindness, because that's the gateway to that legislator that you're wanting to talk to. So I do agree there's times to be, there's nothing wrong with being truthful anytime. The truth is always best. And after, there was a 2-day period where I was deciding whether to tell my story or not. And Jenny sat with me on the phone while I cried. There was 2 days of me crying, talking to people. I was a mess. I was trying to toggle with what is the right thing to do here. And I just kept having this gentle pressing of all this dark be brought to light, all this dark be brought to light. And I kept speaking out about secrecy in schools and secrecy. And the root of all of this is that secrecy, the secrecy of just not speaking the truth. There's nothing that can go wrong. Our parents and prior generations had no problem speaking the truth. Where the truth got where things got messed up with the truth was when we started judging along with the truth. I think like my grandma, you could sit at her dinner table and you could speak the truth all day long. But if you started to gossip or speak ill of a specific person in a way, she would shut you down immediately. And when I was a little girl, my parents, my mom and dad's friends, they were divorced. But all those people of my parents' age came to my grandma's house to have coffee. She had a hot pot of coffee all day long over on Southeast 44th and Shields, which is not a great area then. Now it was starting to go downhill. And those simple rules she had at that dinner table was you can speak the truth all day long, but we're not going to bash people. And she would tell them, here she is, her little pantyhose under her jean shorts, little white socks with the cotton ball on the back. Do you remember those? She wore that every day. I
remember all of that.
And she would, it wouldn't matter if it was a 40-year-old, 300-pound man. She'd go, we don't do that at our dinner table. You can speak the truth, but we don't bash people. And I think there was some crossover of that. And then it became, don't speak the truth, because it became a feelings issue. You're going to hurt someone's feelings, or you're going to, but I think we just need to get back to speaking the truth. You can't go wrong there if you're telling the truth. And I just, for me, that's been very empowering and very enlightening. It's just being able to speak that truth. This is what happened. Not upset with the governor. I'm not upset with his team. I'm upset with the process and upset.
Well, it didn't happen to me, and I am. I am. I mean, and part of the reason I am is because of this. These boards are slowly being replaced with people who answer to the leaders of the state, gubernatorial appointees, speaker appointees, pro tem appointees. Mm-hmm. None of this is about the people. It's all about my buddies. It's all about the people that I know. It's not about any of that stuff. Also, another one is only because we let them. We have to think outside of the box and stop bowing to government. And I mean, I don't know that I'm necessarily to the point of invoking anarchy necessarily. And I do agree with you that you don't go in screaming at people.
Maybe you do. Maybe you need to. I wouldn't incite physical violence, but maybe we need some emotional violence. Maybe we need some pretty serious language. I guarantee you go in there and you just go ballistic on somebody and embarrass them. Just completely embarrass them in front of their peers.
They'll have you removed. Those little green cups down there remove you for holding an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper saying make the votes.
But you're removed. Have a nice guy approach, because nice guy is going to finish last. They're not even going to pay attention. Like Kendra is the perfect example of the GOB system here, the good old boy system in Oklahoma. You have literally probably the most qualified person that's ever been in that seat ever. And they didn't like the question she was asking, so they got to get rid of her.
Man, Michael, I like this side of you.
Yeah.
I am impressed.
I just think that, as just good, moral Christian people, we've let all this happen because we're forgiving. We're just, turn the other cheek. At some point, we have to have some, like you said, Jenny, some revolution in one way or another. We can't just let these people keep going, because they're going to just steamroll us. They're going to keep going. They're just going to steamroll us until we literally stand up and embarrass them, just literally embarrass them.
But this is the first speech Jenny gave was at Toby Keith's Bar and Grill, or the first speech I saw, Toby Keith's Bar and Grill on 19th Street and Moore. And she came in, and here's Jenny, her cute little hair and little jean jacket, belt buckle boots, whole thing, cute as can be. And what she talked to us about that day, and she's like freaking out right now inside because she doesn't know what I'm going to say. But what she talked about that day was she was talking about the mask mandates. And she goes, guys, you don't have to make a big production. When you walk in the grocery store, they offer you the mask, put your hand out and say, no, thank you. No, thank you. I have one, or I don't wear one, whatever you want to do. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be kicked out of the store. You just keep walking. And the way that empowered me, because it just made perfect sense to me, because I was struggling with not wanting to have the controversy of, I didn't mask, but if I needed to run in a specific place that had to mask, I felt like I had to, or I was going to get in trouble. So she gave us another pathway. No, you're fine. Just be nice about it. Keep walking and just don't entertain it. Go do your business, get out of the store and come back. And that was huge for me. And I like that approach. I like that approach of being able to just with a smile and affirm, no, we're not doing that kind of approach. So
we'll agree there's multiple approaches, but I will tell you, during the mask deal, my kids would literally, they never go to the store with me ever. But they would lie. They'd ask me. I'd come home from the office. They'd be like, because I still did go to work every single day. I didn't work from home. But my kids would ask me like, Dad, are you going to the store today? I'm like, why? They're like, well, I want to go. I want to go and see what happens, because I never wore a mask. One day they'd come up, the managers would come up, the employees would come up, they'd be attacking me, and I wouldn't go crazy on them, but I would just show my kids that I'm still a person. I have the right to stand up for my rights. I'm going to, and I'm not going to let them bully me, because that's what they want. They want to just bully me into a corner. And I wouldn't get in their face. I still, treated them with respect, but I just tell them, call the police. You have a mask on, you're protected. And I just keep going and going and going. And then they'd finally just, they just leave or whatever. But at least I feel like I showed my kids that, they at some point, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone and have a little confrontation to defend yourself.
So I've got to put this in. This is what Sherry said. The biggest lie told in our society is that it's not polite to speak about politics and religion. It's ruined our ability for civil discourse. Mm-hmm. You teach people how to discuss issues and disagree with them and still get along. And I think that's huge, because I remember when I was growing up, because I'm 62, and I remember when I was growing up, if I would say something like, Mom, who'd you vote for? It's not, we don't talk about religion or politics. And this was my mother. And she would say that, well, we don't talk about religion. And she'd always lower her voice like somebody was listening. I'm like, Ma, we're in the car. Who's listening? We don't talk about religion and politics. I do think, it's fortunate that I just don't give a rat's butt about what anybody says about anything and do what I want. But I'm just saying, there were so many of us in that generation that were raised. Mm-hmm. So we weren't taught to debate. We weren't taught to ask questions nicely. We weren't taught to push back. We were just taught to shut up and sit down. Just, we're not doing that.
We're not. And the more of us that don't, the more people are going to feel empowered, and we can empower them through educating them on how things work. It was really cool yesterday. My daughter's expecting, and she had her ultrasound, and I was like, how does it go? And she said, how'd it go? And she said, I got to hear the heartbeat. And I was like, isn't that so cool? And she goes, you know what, Mom? This isn't just a clump of cells. And she said this thing, so it cracked me up, but she said, this thing is alive. And I just laughed so hard, because remember that moment when they're smarter than, they get it. They want the same things we wanted, and we can help them achieve that by educating and going around and doing those things and talking about it. Like Sherry said, Sherry's an amazing teacher, and we just, all is not lost, and it can feel that way sometimes, but we do have to participate.
Well,
and that's why, you use the word education there a couple times, Kendra, but that's why it's so important we take these school boards back, so we can get our local education back on track and teach these kids what their rights are, how to be an actual productive person, not just a number consumer, follow along little automaton.
Priority number one, right? I think above everything else. And I feel like school boards are so overlooked, but it is priority number one, that education of, our education's, it was higher in the mid last century. It was higher. Reading was higher. Reading rates were higher. And that's a travesty. The reading is the key. JD Vance, myself, what helped us? Reading helps you see that there's a life beyond poverty, that there's other things out there. We could escape to Narnia or escape to, I was reading Stephen King books, because we didn't have kids' books. We had whatever books were at the house.
Didn't you say in that bio on the podcast that you literally read every single book? There wasn't even any more books.
There were no more books. And some ladies at church would give us their old Reader's Digest and Guideposts. What happened to Guideposts? Do you remember Guideposts?
Yeah, well, they're actually still out there, but the only problem is they are woke. I don't even pay any attention to them anymore, because it's the very woke Christianity that Norman Vincent Peale is, along with the founders, they're the ones creating the rotational gravity for the earth by rolling around in their graves. So yeah.
But I would read those and those little positive stories, and
yeah,
sometimes there were stories about people who had a much worse life than me, but were able to improve it and get better. So I always knew that there was something better for me. I just had to keep staying at it. And that I saw a thing the other day about toxic positivity. We have lost our minds. Toxic positivity. And I'm like, that's when you're just positive about everything and you always try to find the silver lining. And I'm like, okay.
Toxic positivity.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That almost sounds like, the lady that was interviewing you, Kendra, in the podcast. And,
it does.
Something that bothered
I
me
agree.
about that. And we ought to post a link to that, Jenny.
Yeah,
somehow.
but hold on 1 second, because I want to go back 1 second. So Kendra and I are cooking something up together, and one of the things that I wanted to bring up. Hold on just a second. Oh, I did think this was funny. Several of them want us to coin the phrase GOB.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Sherry says, vote out the GOB. That's what we need to do. Maybe that's another one for you, Whitney.
That's a good
on
one,
that.
Whitney.
So, okay, I can't. Oh, Shelly's cracking up about that one.
Hi, Michelle.
So I can't find them now. Oh, here it is. Debate should be a requirement. This is something that I think we need to include in our plans, because I think at this point in time, we're going to have to teach people how to debate, because even if you can get them to go to a legislator and say, I don't understand why you voted this way on this bill. Why did you vote to increase the requirements for this degree? Why did you do that? Oh, well, because Jenny, because blah, 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 blah. And then they spew out all this nonsense. And then you go, oh. And we're either not equipped to understand how to argue back on just a general, these are the Republican principles debate. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we don't even really, those of us who are conservatives don't even really know what the Republican rules of debate are. And we need to kind of figure out, well, if they start down that road of whatever you just say, I think that's filibustering. And so I really need a better answer than that. Well, why, if you're a Republican, would you vote to increase the size of government? These are the comments that we need to come back with. These are the things that we need to put in their face.
So they're trapping us with the details, is what I hear you saying.
Yes.
They're trapping us off into a whole different conversation with the details, but really the principles remain the same no matter the argument. And that's the empowerment that comes through educating the people.
Say that again. The principles remain the same no matter the argument. That's what I love about you. That's perfect. Sorry, go ahead.
That was it, I guess.
Oh, well, I interrupted you. I'm sorry, but that was perfect.
But that is what I started to feel when I went from being a mom who couldn't even stand in front of a room of people in 2020 to being vocal over a 5-year period. And they always say, older people can't change or learn. I've changed and learned a lot in the last 5 years. And that was a piece of it that I started to realize was the more I understood the system, the more that equated to empowerment, which also equated to confidence in speaking about it. I was always terrified to go on shows and terrified of what to say. And that's another thing is not being in that seat. Jenny, how many times did you ask me to come on the show? And I said, listen, I don't think the governor would like that. No, I'm not going to talk about that because I don't, now we can come on here and speak freely. And so it's a blessing for me now. I can say what needs to be said. I can help people understand what's happening. I am not confined any longer.
No, and it's funny because you were just when you were talking about that, because I'd forgotten something that we met early on, and I don't know why I have this thing about people, and I'm like, oh, I'm really gonna like this person, or oh, I'm already on guard about this person. And when I met you, You were the cutest thing. And you said something to me like, I just don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what to say. And I was like, girl, you look like you've got it going on. Go with it. It's like, and then I was so surprised, guess, because you hold yourself very confidently. And I noticed that when I met you, you just hold yourself very confidently. And when you said, well, I don't really know what to say, I'm not sure what to say. And I thought, just go with it because you look confident, whatever comes out of your mouth, so long as you look, yeah, you fake it till you make it. But it is funny that I think you just made me remember that. And I thought, yeah, you have come a long way. I mean, you really have.
Yeah, I was unsure about the whole thing. I didn't understand any of it. I felt dumb. And it took a while. It's taken, I still don't fully understand it. And I know you guys that have been in it for a long time are still learning things. And
yeah.
I just have this weird thought in my mind all the time. Did they make it this complicated intentionally? Because it really could be simplified.
It's interesting because Robert just put this comment up. My grandpa and dad were adamant about not talking politics and religion. I'm wondering if this was classic government propaganda agenda from 50 to 100 years ago. Where did this even come from? And I think that does make some sense, because if you got people into believing that you were going to hurt people's feelings, or you were going to, ruin your relationship with them if you had a different opinion, I think how bad that is. Then you could never have any friends unless they were exactly like you.
What's the fun in that?
Yeah, when I moved down here in 2000, Jenny, the first job I had, they literally told me, do not talk politics or religion, period. That's what my boss told me.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, okay. I mean, I was just a dumb kid. I'm like, okay.
Huh.
Well, I did want to put this up because Jana says there's a homeschool speech tournament in Norman on Saturday. We could use more judges Thursday and Friday for the preliminary round. So if you're watching and you'd like to get involved with that, would you please reach out to me if you don't know how to reach out to Janet, and I'll get you hooked up on that. So,
and Jana's another one that I've watched and learned from and been incredibly impressed by her strength.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Oh yeah. And she knows.
And also to Sherry's other comment on old dog, new tricks, I can guarantee you, I learn faster. My learning curve is even faster now than it ever was. At 50 years old, I can learn stuff much faster and process and assimilate information so much faster now than I ever could in the past.
So you're older than me, huh? So I turned 50 in May. Just a little.
We're not even going to go down the.
You already told us your age, Jenny.
I know. We're not even going down that.
You definitely don't. You definitely have a much younger look in persona, so don't even worry.
That comes from my dad. We celebrated his 91st birthday the other day. That dude, holy cow. If I can just be him, that'll be great. Okay, so because we're going to have to close it out here. We're at 124.
Wow.
Oh, I see what she was saying. Jana said it was probably about Vietnam. And it's funny that you say that, Jana, because I was the only one of us who was a kid during Vietnam. And I remember my parents were very, very social people, and they would always have dinner parties. And my dad was the one who resurrected the Gaslight Dinner Theater in Enid. I mean, my parents were very gregarious people, and they were always having parties and stuff. And I remember that in the morning we'd sit down and Mom would have the radio on, and you'd hear, troop movements and people talking about, the war, and this is what happened and this is what happened. And I do believe that there was something like that. Sherry, you're not seeing her comments because she's on YouTube, and so it's putting her comments on the YouTube platform and not on the Facebook platform. Sorry. I just wanted to get that out there because sometimes people do get confused. They're like, well, you put a comment up and I don't even know where that was from. It's because we have it on, I think, 5 different platforms, and the only way you can see them is when we put them up, which is why I like to put them up so that everybody can see them. But I do think that's where it came from, because if you look at I look at the anger that the Vietnam War cited. I mean, my goodness, you had people at Kent State getting shot by because they were, I mean, it was not a small thing. It was enormous. And I do think that there was so much social strife coming out of the 50s, where everybody was just, oh, we're all so cute. We wear poodle skirts and we love everybody. And then we went into the Vietnam era, where people were literally fighting each other in the streets. And I do think it did have something to do with that, but we need to move on from that and decide that we can talk politics and religion. And if you can't, you're probably not in the right room. So Shelley said the saying was further popularized by the Peanuts comic strip in 1961. The character Linus said, "There are three things I've learned never to discuss with people: religion, politics, and the Great Pumpkin." Linus was also given this line in the 1966 animated television special, It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Fox News political commentator Bill O'Reilly wrote in 2001, "Your mother probably told you, and mine too, that you should never talk about religion or politics." And what am I doing? That's really great. That's great info. And Kendra, are you still on the textbook committee?
I am still chairing the textbook committee, and that has become a secondary love of mine. And I, compared to school board, but I really enjoy the textbook committee and the people that are on it. Getting to look at all of those books, making sure we've added some new things to the textbook rubric. Trying to ensure that our textbooks focus on education, which is reading, writing, arithmetic, because we know Oklahoma kids are just as smart as kids across the United States, and we want to empower them.
I want people to understand the government issue here, though. How are you on the textbook committee, but you're no longer on the state school board committee?
Well, that's a great question. Ryan, the superintendent of public instruction, is supposed to be the chair of the textbook committee. Well, they usually don't serve in that capacity, but they're appointed, or I don't know what the word is, but that's what where they serve. And a lot of times that is given over to someone in the Department of Education to do as proxy. And Ryan asked me to be his proxy from the get-go for that seat. So I've been doing that for a couple of years now. And the board is appointed by Governor Stitt. So we'll see if that gets wonky or interesting, but we're going to count on him to do the right things and put the right people in place to ensure that the right textbooks are approved. So schools have the choice of what books they want to use, always local control. And our role is to choose books that they can use their state funds for. And we try to ensure that those books meet Oklahoma values and meet the standards. And we have huge teams of content review teams that go through those books. Each summer get about around 200 textbooks to go through. And that's always fun and interesting. I've learned some neat things that I'd forgotten about from school. The math was not fun. I'm not great at math. I should have pulled Jenny in to help with that piece, but
you're an accountant.
Yes. And accounting is different. So, I've gotten spoiled to Excel. So a lot of my accounting is done in Excel with formulas. So there's no pen and paper. Contrary to popular belief, we now use modern methods of accounting. And the first audit, by the way, I just have to tell you this. The first audit I ever did, I worked at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I didn't do the audit. An outside CPA came in to audit them. So I said that wrong. But the first audit, they literally had about 25 8.5 by 11 pages printed out, all taped together to map out that audit. That's how it used to be done. So I'm very grateful for modern methods. But the textbook committee has been really enjoyable for me, and I look forward to continuing to serve in that role.
So I want to ask you about something exciting, and that is your committee that you're working with our superintendent on. So tell us a little bit about that.
So Katie Quibido and I are co-chairing the Trump Education Advisory Committee, and we envision a committee that when Trump McMahon pushes something out, we can all gather our resources. We'll have people in place and we can follow through and implement what they're wanting. He has 10 initiatives right now. And number one on his initiatives is restoring parental rights. And this is also another piece of school boards are huge and important, but parents are important too. And them being able to have the right to direct their child's education is really important. So we're looking forward to implementing that here in Oklahoma. Sherry and I hear stories all the time. The parents spoke up, asked the tough questions, was banned from their child's school for 6 months. In what world is that ever okay? That's not okay. And so parents have effectively sort of been silenced, and our younger parents, this is the kind of education system they've always known. So I don't think they press back as hard. I have a 30-year span of kids being in education because our oldest is 31, and it has changed drastically. Parental involvement, parental welcomeness, from that oldest one now to our youngest, who's almost 10. And I really want to see parents empowered and be a part of that, looking at assignments, feeling comfortable asking questions, and not just digressing to the expert. We still have our instincts and we still know what's right and what's wrong, and we don't need someone with a degree to tell us those things.
So Sherry says this. So apparently you need to talk about something else. What is Liberty Hill?
Oh, so Sherry and we've done a lot of trips together to educational conferences because we both wanted to learn as much as we could. So we've been going across the United States to different conferences and traveling together. And we would just sit down at night and have these conversations that were out of the world and just solve all the world's problems. And Sherry kept saying, we need to do a podcast. We need to do a show. And so we've been doing that. Our third episode just went on Mondays at 6. It's on OTU Media on Facebook. We're working on our own platforms and just kind of hash it out. So last week we talked about the sexual abuse in schools, her project Broken Trust, and how to report and ensure that your reporting gets heard and not swept under the rug through the GOB system. Oklahoma is so who you know, and I despise the way we've become in that aspect. But so we're just going to hear from the public. We want to talk to everyday people and see how politics are affecting them and encourage those open and honest conversations so that we can start making change and create, empower people.
Dr. Pelham says, I'm going down a rabbit hole realigning a program from reading recovery to I don't even know what that
Science
is.
of reading.
Oh, okay. I'd love to reach out and chat. So there you go.
I would
There's
love to
thing
meet
for
you.
to
You
do.
let me know, get my number from Jenny, and anyone that wants to talk about this, I take all the help I can get. Science of reading is fundamental. We know Louisiana just raised their scores. They invested a huge amount into just reading. And someone asked me, it was actually Charlie Potts at a Reagan breakfast where I was speaking, what if I were a superintendent of education, what was the first thing that I would do? And I think that would be the very first thing I would do. All kids need to be reading at level right now. And you guys ask the kids in your life to open a book at their reading level and ask them to read it to you and see how well they're reading and see what's happening. Because I suspect that there are a lot of kids who aren't reading well. And actually we know that because they're graduating not reading. So the universities love that because they get to charge you for an extra year of remediation when your kids can't do math and reading. So they get a whole other year of tuition for an education that you pay through tax dollars that they didn't receive in K-12. So let's not keep paying universities to teach kids things we've already paid to teach them.
I love that. So I want to ask one other quick question. Give me 1 second because I got to get to a tab. Oklahoma Democrats seek to block Ryan Walters' new social studies standards. Oklahoma House and Senate Democrats on Monday filed resolutions to reject a controversial. Now we know if it's controversial because Democrats are upset, then it's probably not something we're going to be upset with. That's just my thought about it. What is it about these social study standards that apparently have Democrats so their panties all in a wad, for lack of a nicer thing to say?
Well, one thing I noticed when I first started on the board was that the social studies standards were heavy on the word democracy, democratic. There was, I don't even think I found the word republic or Republican in them one time. I could have missed it, so I'm not going to hold my feet to the fire on that. But there was no talk about a constitutional republic, a government of the people. And so we wanted those things included. We wanted the government portrayed the way that it was meant to be portrayed. And so I assume they're upset about that. Personally, I think the standards didn't go far enough. I think that Ryan pulled back quite a bit. And there were think tanks and groups that worked hard on those standards that were upset that they didn't roll out with more constitutional authority. There's this weird thing that I feel like Democrats don't think the Constitution is a governing document, the Declaration of Independence. It's just really strange to me. So we were leaning heavily on the founding fathers and formation. And I think that one complaint I heard was that it was too much. It was going to be too hard to teach all of that. Just anything they could do to complain about it. But in my opinion, Ryan met them halfway and did a great job of doing that, and even further than I would have gone on it. So I think anytime anyone can be upset about Ryan Walters, that's the in vogue thing to do. Everyone's trying to pull the rug out from underneath him. I have yet to see him do anything that he didn't campaign that he was going to do. And it was tough for me as a board member for people to ask me to hold him accountable and make him pay or whatever. And I'm thinking, this man was elected statewide by the people, and he's supposed to invoke the will of the people in that position. The board is appointed, not elected. So you're trying to toggle between doing, what the governor wants and what the people want. And so I had this great way of just thinking about what was best for the kids, regardless of who got upset. And I think that keeping it there, and I encourage our new board members to do that as well. We really just need to focus on kids.
Wait, what? Are there children involved in education in Oklahoma?
Somewhat. 700,000 of them.
Really? I had no clue, because I always thought it was about the adults.
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't figuring there were actually children in the, well, it's funny. Most people don't know this. We've got a nice audience, so I'll just tell you now. I got my start in 2000, and I believe it was 6, it may have been 7, with then member of the House, Representative Charles Key. And we had met, and we both we had a conversation at some meeting. I don't remember when it was, and it set us off. And we were talking about how terrible Oklahoma's history standards were, and how there was nothing about the Constitution, and there was nothing about any of the founding documents and that kind of thing. And we actually, Representative Key wrote we both did excessive study, found an excellent textbook and it was actually a Skousen textbook that, for however weird it was used in California schools. It's one of the best textbooks for history, United States history, that I've ever seen. And I think Charlie thought that at the time too. And we were going to get that to the textbook committee and say, hey, you need to review this one, because we need to look at this textbook. And here's what we need to do. We need to study the Constitution. And we wrote all these things out. You can go back and look the bill up. And it was, but the first year it was voted down in the House of Representatives. And then the second year, it was voted for, and then the Senate wouldn't hear it. So that's your state of Oklahoma. That no, we're not. We like to think of things as a democracy. We don't really want to know how. And here's the thing that just fundamentally wipes me out. So the Democrats certainly can have whatever bizarro thoughts they want to have, but there was a constitutional convention. There was a constitution that was created. It is the founding framework for our government in the United States. And you can pretend that it's not, and you can say that it's not, and you can call it something different, but that doesn't solve the problem of the fact that it's the founding framework until we overthrow this republic somehow. And it's been done, was done with Rome. Until we do that, this is the framework. And I don't really give a crap whether you like it or not, or you agree with it. You should at least have the wherewithal to say, you know what, this is what we have. This is our framework. We'll work from there. But the Democrats just simply won't do it. They like to make something else up and then tell us that we're stupid for wanting to follow the actual Constitution, which is the framework of our government. Make that make sense.
Well, and if kids are taught the Constitution and that story of hope, and then the way things are supposed to work. Last summer at a conference, we learned that 70% of millennials think that their rights come from the government.
Right.
So the inalienable rights that come from the Creator in an individual capacity, and to have that individual right and those rights not be infringed upon, those are huge concepts that keep us a constitutional republic. So if you can erase those, then you become a more malleable people. That
anything goes. It's mob rule then.
It's mob rule.
That was when I ran for school board, that was one of the things I said constantly that I received so much flack on is I don't really consider today like an educational process in these schools. It's literally more indoctrination. I mean, it's just teaching these kids a set of beliefs, and that's really what it comes down to. And like you said, Kendra, with the Constitution, not only just, those are our God-given rights, but the government is supposed to protect those rights.
That's right.
At the end of the day, their job is to protect those rights, not grant them to us, protect them. And we are so far away from that.
And they're doing it in a system that I've realized being on the textbook committee. And be careful when you pray for wisdom and discernment, because the Lord will just download all kinds of things into your life that you may or may not be ready to handle. But they do it. I've just coined it myself. It's layering. It's little pieces of layering throughout different textbooks. McGraw-Hill will do things in their math textbook. Do you feel safe? What can you do to make your classroom safe? And then, next semester, what did you do to make your classroom safe? And then the next semester, what can you and your friends do to make your classroom safe? That has no place in math. And they do it under this guise of whole child. But really, it's a layering. So if you're getting every subject 2 or 3 times a semester, these same little layerings, they create one big impact. So we've got to do the same thing. We've got to layer, start in kindergarten, first grade. Where do your rights come from? What is the government supposed to protect? And we can do that same layering, but again, it requires participation. It requires people making sure the textbooks in the schools are not putting out surveys on whether or not you sniff glue or what's your favorite kind of sex to have, which is asinine. We have to participate. There's just no way around this without participation. I can't see a light at the end of the tunnel without participation. And we can help people to participate by educating them, empowering them, and giving them the confidence. People before understood the Constitution, the way it worked. They were taught it. We have to get back to those just fundamental things. And it really doesn't matter what books are in the school if kids can't read them, right? So, I guess you could have we've seen some pretty graphic novels that they don't require reading skills, but basically we've got to stand up for this, get our kids reading well, and not just become this gelatinous society.
So guess who we're having on Friday?
Governor
Jason Hardaway with the Patriot Academy, and he's going to teach us about how to learn about the Constitution and what the Patriot Academy is. So
I love that organization. I'm a coach for them, so I love.
Are you?
In my free time?
That is, yeah, I was, what
They have
free
some great
time.
things online. Sign up for their stuff, and they'll send you different classes you can go on and view. I work with Leadership Institute. They have some great school board trainings
they
that
do.
are great. And then sometime, Jenny, I'd like to come on and work through all the associations and the way they're controlling education and yeah. So there's a lot of pieces to this. You know, lobbyists, we've got things we haven't even touched on, but the more of everyday people that participate, the less power these people are going to have.
Well, and I hope that people understand that, especially with the election of Brian Logan last night, we are making a difference.
We are.
And until we get that building at 23rd and Lincoln cleaned out of the people who want to make sure that non-citizens can arrest citizens, want to make sure that the Constitution isn't really thought of as the founding document at all, then nothing's going to get better. So we've got to take this. We have to just, I'm sorry, we're living under mob rule. There are so many good comments, and then I get distracted by the comments. We're living under mob rule now. The problem is that more than half of Americans are paid by the mob. Everybody thinks they have a gravy train when what they really have is a slavery train. That's true. And thank you, Lisa, for propping up our page. She may be on the Rope 2 page. Kelly says parents can't see this layering in the textbooks. This is a good comment.
Hi, Kelly. All these people I know, I love it.
Because schools don't use textbooks anymore.
That's right.
Their textbooks are all online. Our kids don't bring a physical book home that we can flip through. And I do think if we do anything, and if Ryan is able to do anything before he leaves, one of the things that we've got to do is stop the inculcation of the digital books and go back to the regular books. I am so sick of the computer. It's not helping anything.
I'll make a comment on that too, Jenny. On those Chromebooks, I witnessed this myself, and I stopped this in Edmond schools. When I was walking by one time and I saw my son, he was on there and he was like choosing, he was looking at the backgrounds to put on his Chromebook. So anyway, I said, oh, wait a second. I saw one. I'm like, click on that right there. There was literally a background that was all lesbian and gay, you know, the whole deal. And I said, I took a picture of it and I immediately emailed it straight to the superintendent. And I said, this is total BS. You better get this off of these computers right now.
And I had a pretty good battle too with the Chromebooks when my girls were in 6th and 8th grade around 2018. They came home with the Chromebooks and they're like, we got our own email address. So whoop, I call the school. Hey, my kid's got an email address. I'd like the password. And you know what they told me? Can't have it. Your kid can give it to you. We can't give it to you. And I'm thinking, you're giving my kid, and mind you, my best friend was a detective in the sex crimes unit here in Norman. Norman Public Schools would not give me access to the email, which to me meant that any Joe Blow on the street could email my kid with this K-12 email. And I had no say, no control. Insanity that yes, the Chromebooks are a problem. We can do computer labs. And I'll tell you right now, there's not a kid in Oklahoma who doesn't know how to work a computer. They can get on these smartphones, which are computers, and do anything that you want them to do. So yeah.
Wait, things you don't want them to do, actually.
Sure. Yeah.
Have you been on Snapchat?
I do not Snapchat.
I did, and then I had to stop. Sherry says digital books are cheaper to make and more expensive to use and can be easily manipulated. I do think that, and she says, hence the need for HB 3958. Help me out.
So digital textbooks, I don't know on that one. I'll have to think, but on the digital textbooks, what we saw last summer in the arts was digital textbooks would have links to YouTube. And so that's all great and protected, right? But what wasn't protected were the comments on YouTube. So when you would go to the link from the digital textbook to the YouTube video, the comments would be full of porn. So we did require that they correct that, make the comments either private or where they couldn't comment at all. So it's all over the place online. It's just a dangerous It's a dangerous thing.
All right. Well, I think we probably should get off because it's 1:50, and we always take a 1 hour podcast to the. Oh, she says.
I do want to make a comment though about Kendra's interview on the podcast, because this just struck me, and I'm just like, this is so classic. So you did.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's say what it was. So Kendra was on a podcast called "The Elephant in the Room Unboxed." Because I was freaking out because, JJ and
I know, isn't that funny?
Yeah, I know, have the elephant in the room. And I was like,
Mhm.
why are you on, what would you be upset about getting on JJ's podcast for? But it wasn't JJ, it was another lady, and it was called The Elephant in the Room Unboxed. And so you sent it to Michael and me and said, you might watch or listen to this. And so we listened to it yesterday. And what were you going to say now, Michael?
Well,
I'm sorry.
Obviously she's more left leaning.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
I don't know her
wonderful.
politics, but she uses like, we're not human enough yet, and she's using anthropology and all these. She's trying to equate all this stuff into education and how bad education is. But here's the point that I'm just going to call her a liberal. All these liberals miss. The point is, liberals took over education. It's all of their own policies that have created this massive downfall in education across the board, and they can't see it. They cannot see it.
Wow, that's huge.
But it's so true. So they complain about education and they say it's terrible and they need more money and all of this kind of thing. But all of the policies are their policies. If they don't work, it's because they suck.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science to figure that out.
Well, there were a lot of things that we agreed upon, and I do agree with you guys on that. It was refreshing to me because I could see that Suzette really had a heart for education and wanted to make things better. But like Michael said, maybe that conversation hasn't been had about what led to the state of education. She agreed with the secrecy. She agreed with the things I was saying about non-English speaking kids. So I thought that was really neat. Yeah. And I think that we have to do more of that, because planting those little seeds and having those conversations, if there's a wall up between us and people who are not like us or do not agree with us, then how can we ever move them? And I think our wisdom comes in. Can this person be moved? Is it a good use of time? Or is it someone who is just going to take everything you say and weaponize it against you, and it's a waste of time? So that'll be the discernment there of the people that you can move. But I enjoyed her thoroughly, but yes, we did not have the same inclinations for the most part.
Well, like as an example, just one thing, she kind of hit on the 71 languages, 72 languages in all the schools. Rewind back to when we were in school. Literally everybody spoke English. Just go backwards. The United States has been a melting pot for a long time. People have assimilated into, our culture, not the other way around. Now that you've got all these liberals in education, now you have to, assimilate the other way. And I just don't understand how they can't see that.
Multiple cultures can exist in that framework. You can have your culture on your personal level, of course, you can keep up with that, but we can't have all the different cultures embedded into schools. Like, there has to be one unified goal. And I think that trying to have all those different languages and celebrate all these different things and giving caveats to American laws because of a culture response is a fallacy, and it's not going to work, and it's not working. You're American or you're not. If you want to come here and be here, then you will become an American. If you don't want to, then we'll be happy to help you go back.
And it's so interesting because JD said that in his book. I mean, that was in the last chapter of his book. And he said, and he's married to Usha. I mean, Usha's, Indian descent. And he said he was looking at his background, and he said, despite all of the challenges in my background, that there are several things that I can tell you. And that is that my parents loved the United States of America. They believed that everything and his grandmother and his grandpa were both kind of blue dog Democrats. And he said they believed that America was the best place in the United States. America was the best place in the United States. America was the best place in the world. It had all of these. You could have the ability to get where you want, which is what they taught me, was that I was able to do anything I want, which is what I, which is why I did what I did. And he made that point specifically. There's nothing wrong with your culture. It's great, but that's not in a public school. That's not in a government situation. That's not in anything paid for by tax dollars. So if you want to have your own Orthodox church, if you want to have your own little area where you have Vietnamese cooking and you express your Vietnamese, back, that's part of what America is. But you can't pull that in to the government. You can't pull that into taxpayer. You can't make us sponsor that, because we are America, and we survive on the Constitution and the framework of the Constitution, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, and that's
and
where
we speak English. And
Kendra, you kind of made a point earlier about how they're changing the definition of words, and to me,
yes,
education is one of those words. To me, education means academics, period. That's what it means to me. Education, when we're talking like K through 12, is academics. It's not culture or culturalism and all this solipsism kind of stuff. It's literally should be. Then their academics is such a small part of it anymore. I mean, when you got all these schools buying, $100,000 worth of feeling buddies and all kinds of stuff. I mean, there's no academics in that.
Yes, it has to. I mean, Oklahoma academics will improve when Oklahomans put academics first. That's when we'll see the improvement. Until when everything else is all paramount and most important and most talked about, this is how it's going to remain. So more conversations on science of reading and math, more conversations on how to improve those scores. Right. John Boy says, what road signs do you see in another language? And that I just can't imagine. You fought so hard to get here, to come here, because you came to this country as an immigrant, legal or illegal, with a dream of an America. So how do you conceptualize wanting to change that America that you dreamed about coming to because you believed it was better than where you were? It's such a circular argument. It's the weirdest thing.
Well, I'll be honest. I don't think they're coming for, it's not, back in the day, there was a great song, and I can't remember what his name is. All of a sudden, he's a singer, Cracklin' Rosie sang that, but he had in the early 80s, he had an album called They're Coming to America. Coming to America. And he had a great, it was like an anthem, They're Coming to America. And it talked about,
Diamond?
Thank you, Neil Diamond. Love you. Yes, Neil Diamond.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, I still hear it because we played it so many times, but I don't think people come to America for what Neil Diamond talked about, people coming to America for in the 80s. I think the people that are coming here today, that are running the borders, they're coming here to get free stuff.
Resources, yeah.
They're not coming here to become Americans. They're not coming here to put in that time and effort and really make something of themselves. They've been told they can get free crap here. And if they sign up for it, they'll get free crap. And that's why they're here, which explains everything. It explains everything. We want people to come here from other countries who are going to work hard, be part of the American fabric, learn how to speak the language, want to be free, understand the concept of freedom, but that's not what we're getting. That's not what we're getting. We're getting the ones that want to come here because I've heard you can get on Medicaid. I've heard you can get on food stamps.
Good point, Jenny.
Sorry. I mean, and that'll piss a lot of people off. Sorry, not sorry. But that's it. I don't know.
We talked about speaking truth, so you can't control other people's feelings.
Well, then that's an excellent point. Thank you. I'll just continue. Anyway, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I just encourage everybody to stay involved, stay in the battle. My prayer is those people come in and do realize how wonderful America is and change their whole viewpoint on that. We have a lot of, a lot of immigrants right now, a lot more than people think. At one point, Oklahoma City was getting dozens a day, and we just we need to stay on top of that and ensure that we're maintaining the integrity of our Oklahoma kids' education. And together we all rise. But if we start dragging each other down, it's not going to be good. We're not going to be looking at any place but 50 in education.
Yeah. And we shouldn't be. All right. We are going to get off of here for now. But I had a thing, and then I wanted to go through with Governor Stitt. I may do that, just record it and put it out. Maybe you can stir them up enough to start researching for themselves. Oh, Gracie, that's so true. All right. So I think you just had the best last word, and don't worry, we'll get Kendra back on and we'll talk about some of the other things that she wants to talk about in school. We might even have you and Sherry on together. That might be a great tag team, actually. And the four of us just kind of tag teaming about education might be a really interesting day.
She's the knowledge box of education. Yes.
Because then we could get Dr. Pelham to watch, and then we could get Dr. Harrell to watch, and everybody could be making comments. It'd be a great education day. So I think that's it for now, right? What do you think? Are we good? Guys, we had a great audience today. We love you so much. I will say it I'll say it every podcast because I mean it. Our viewers are the best, aren't they, Michael?
They are.
Our viewers are absolutely the best. So I will continue to say it, and we will never.
And they take action, Jenny. They take action.
And they do. And we love them for that. So, Julie asks, where do we go to watch Kendra and Sherry's podcast?
Right now, we are on Facebook under OTU Media. Actually, it's Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite, and JJ Humphrey's Elephant in the Room has been gracious enough to host us until we get our platform up and running. Mondays at 6, it's live. It's also recorded there. And we really would like to hear what people would like us to discuss, and just open some of these doors, get the word out on what's happening in politics, and do that education empowerment that we've talked about all the show. Yeah. OTU Media. Yes, Michael, I do want to see your shirt too. I think my husband has that same one.
What is it?
Lockdowns make you free, and it's got a little COVID hammer sickle molecule, a virus molecule, a syringe there.
The other day he had his shirt on and all I could see was Hillary for, and I texted him and I was like, Michael, do you have a shirt on that says Hillary for president or something? And he lifted up and it was prison. Did it say Hillary for prison?
Yeah, Hillary for prison.
We got so many comments about
Hillary
that.
I was like, this can't be real life. Did Jenny put a filter on him? Because Michael would never wear that. And I just.
No, but we did. We got so many comments about that shirt. It was just bad. Okay. Michael needs his own t-shirt shop.
Agree.
Yeah, I do.
You know what you do need to do? You need to start taking pictures of your t-shirts, and we'll put them up on the website somewhere and say, if you want, here are Michael's t-shirts.
Yeah.
Go get them.
I love
Hey,
it.
I'm a political animal. I've always got something to say, even if it's not coming out of my mouth. It's on my chest.
Sherry said that you guys are also on Rumble. So
yeah,
okay.
We've had the most fun doing that. I hope you guys tune in. It's like the blind leading the blind us trying to set up podcast equipment and get everything going. If you could only see the minutes that lead up to the show, we're both like, plug the swear, push what? But we're getting there. We're learning fast.
I will say this StreamYard program that we use. I just think it's really awesome because it's fairly, easy to use, and we don't end up having, because we're all so far away. As a matter of fact, we're all from a triangle. You're from Norman. I'm out here. Michael's in Edmond. It would be such a pain to try to get together. And I do like that, the ability to.
Really cool.
Yeah. So Michael, Julia and Lisa both say that what you should do is get the t-shirts together and we'll have a fundraiser for that. So you better start working on that.
Hang on. I still have the best t-shirt. This will be a t-shirt that we will make a ton of rope donations on, Jenny. Let me put it up.
What is it?
Let me put it up here.
Because Whitney may still be on and she'll help us get it, maybe.
Yeah. This will be one just for Jenny. Let's get it up
Kendra
here.
and I are like,
Whoa.
That's my stylization, my stylized Jenny White Braveheart meme right there. I did that in about
Michael just broke the internet.
10 minutes. 10 minutes. I still need to print that and frame it and sign it and give it to Jenny as
he does that
the
I
artist.
swear. He's like my brother. He's like the brother I never had. Gracie said,
See?
Yeah.
And Sherry said, that's Jenny. I'm dying. Wait, though, and so does Lisa. So maybe we ought to get that done. But then you have to write down at the bottom, freedom.
Yeah.
Really? That's what you have to put on there to make sure people understand what that's about. Yep. Or you could say, leave me alone. Either one. All right, we got to get off of here. Okay, people are like, I got to go on with my day. So let's not waste their time giggling.
Thank you guys
about
for having me again. You're both phenomenal, and I appreciate you.
Oh, John Boy says, Michael, I hate you so much.
They would be so confused. They'd be like, what are these shirts? Who are these people?
What is that? What do they even mean?
That's the Insiders Club. That's
my
that's
goodness.
That would be the funniest
club.
thing is we would know and they wouldn't, right? So that'd make it even funnier.
True. Wouldn't you like to know?
Oh.
Oh my gosh. Let's get one with Sandra and some donkeys too. That would be a good one. Gotta have flags, our own Braveheart. Maybe you're right. Maybe we just need to do that. That's what we need to do. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us and laughing at the end there. We really appreciate it. And on Friday, please tune in so that we can talk a little bit about the Constitution and help you find some good constitutional training if you would like that and you would know somebody who could use that, whether they would appreciate it or not. It'll be there. So please tune in on Friday at 9 a.m. when we will see you then. And thanks for being with us. We just so much appreciate you and have a wonderful, beautiful day. It looks like a beautiful day today. Go out and get some sun, get some vitamin D. And we will see you Friday. Thanks. Bye.